I'm a don't quit it till I get the job done club member. May never be president, but when I lay down my head at night, I take pride in what I do.
Good morning and welcome to Leadership's Insights, brought to you by Evans Leadership Insight Group. And we'd just like to welcome everybody and welcome my very special guest, Jimmy Granddaddy Gardner. And this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to kind of just listen to your experiences, but I mean, I am super excited. Not only do I have a veteran, a Vietnam veteran that's going to share some great experiences, but I have never had somebody on my show that had a song written for him. So the famous Granddaddy, for those that follow our friend Rowdy Decker, this is the Granddaddy that he sings about.
When he was 18, the country called him away. He fought hard every day out in Vietnam, where he damn near lost it all. He came home with scars and bruises, a missing eye, but he made no excuses. He'd get the job done, no matter the price. So, Jimmy, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll probably jump in here or there as you're talking, but I usually ask for people to tell us a little bit about themselves, but I'm going to ask you to tell me everything you want to share.
Well, there's not a lot about me, but I'll try to do something here. I'm Jimmy Garner. I've lived around Park County most all my life. My first memories was probably about when I was about 2, 3 years old. I lived out at Lambert and grew up with a great bunch of neighbors and friends. Then we moved home down towards Brock, and same story. We had good neighbors, good friends. Went to school there and graduated. And so started rocking along there and started trying to go to Weatherford College. And it was all right. It was down on South Main. It was an old building, and everything. And I didn't fit in with the college deal too good. I had the party thing going, and they don't give a grade in that. So I hung loose there for a while and worked at some supermarkets and stuff. Rocked on around, and Uncle Sam was had a deal going in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and so about 1968 September, I knew I couldn't join and do 4 years of anything, or 3 years either, and I knew they were coming to draft me, so I just went ahead and volunteered for the draft, get it over with. I knew I could do 2, I, swing through it. So did that. Went out to Fort Bliss, did my basic training there. Then on to Fort Leonard Wood and trained to be a combat engineer. From Fort Leonard Wood, right out of the cold weather, right over to Vietnam. And 19, I believe it's 19, the last of 1968, first of 69, and it's a whole lot of change you see right there. And you want to go flying into that country, see how people are actually living. Some gave us our assignments and who we were going to be serving with, and I happened to be with the 299th Engineers. And, for anybody that knows anything about 299th Engineers, they were present on D-Day. I think it was Omaha. And they did some pretty decent work there. So our history goes back pretty good ways. So anyway, long story short, go up Play 2 and right on up to a place called Doc Toe. Doc Toe is about 5 miles off of where Laos and Cambodia come together. It's far right next to Ho Chi Minh Trail there.
Okay.
And on up from us was a place called Ben Head. So our main thing was build roads and bridges and keep a 12-mile stretch of road between Doc Toe and Ben Head clear of mines. Things changed a little bit. You might remember talking to the people talking about Vietnamization
Yes, sir.
of Vietnam, where the South Vietnamese army was going to move in and take positions from the United States and take over and control it. Well, we had the 4th Infantry around us for a while, and they pulled out under orders. So it left 600 combat engineers. That's light equipment and combat engineers to cover that ground. And so we rocked on there, doing pretty good, but things started happening around May. I was wounded a little bit and spent some time in Japan. Got 30 days flat on my back. Then on to San Antonio after that. Another 15 days flat on my back. Told myself while I was laying there, if I ever get home, I'm not leaving again. And so far, I hadn't gone unless I know where I'm going or when I'm leaving. So that's pretty important to me. So came back and ran across a young lady that was, I don't know, she wasn't footloose, fancy free. She had a job. That's pretty good if you're a bum like me. So we've been married for about 55, going on 56 years. Pretty heavy, you know. So
Well, that is a
raised
great
5
accomplishment.
kids. We got a whole passel of grandkids or great grandkids. Some of the people in our community knew where I'd been, and others they didn't know, and sometime they just started going about their deal, you know. But a lot of them that was that away are coming around me now. I'm thankful for that. That's about all I can tell you, Dan.
Well, I'm going to ask a few questions then, if you don't mind. So you said when I know we were talking the other evening, and you said when the Vietnamization happened and the 4th Infantry pulled out, you were attached to, or you were left with basically the MAC VSAW group. Is that correct?
Yeah. We were like there. I mean, like I say, we had the air support, you know, Hueys and Cobras and stuff. They'd come up during the day, but when nightfall came, they went on back down to play cool. And but they were there early the next morning. I was, you know, from medevac, they'd come up during the night if they could, you know.
Right.
And matter of fact, that's how I got out of it.
You got out. And And you guys were, I think you were telling me you were one of the longest units that were under one of the longest sieges during Vietnam.
That's what a full bird colonel told me, and he was there with us. So, and I know at the time he was there, he was a chief warrant officer. So, and we always, even at the reunions and stuff that we had, we'd call him chief. You know, even though he had retired as a full bird. Yeah, he said we were part of one of the longest siege, if not the longest, in Vietnam. So yeah, we lost wounded and dead was the report was 45%, I believe. So it got pretty tough around there. A lot of 122s, Zephyr attacks and stuff like that. But that's not bad for a bunch of old combat
Right.
engineers.
No, sir. No, sir, not at all. So, so you spent, you said about 30 days in Japan in a
Yeah.
Army hospital. Now, when you went to San Antonio, was that at Fort Sam, or was that at?
I was at Fort Sam. I stayed there quite a while, but they finally let me up to get around. And of course, the process of after you're laid around that long, it's the process of learning to walk and balance and stuff. It's, you know, it picked you up. So just take a little time, go a little further. Yeah, but they sent me home for convalescent leave. I came back, and first trip down there was the eye clinic, you know, and I was 20 years old when all this was happening. So anyway, I come back in, go down to the eye clinic, go down there. Here comes the eye doctor in there. He takes a look, takes another look. He called two friends in there, and they looked, and they called two friends. And before you know it, you're sitting in a little conference room. And I said, "What's going on here?" Well, we'll tell you in a minute. So it's almost like a board meeting type
Right.
deal. I mean, then here comes this colonel in as a doctor, and I suppose he was probably in charge of all those guys. And he opened the folder up, and he said, "Well, you have a condition with this eye we've been trying to save that we're not going to be saving it." And I said, "Whoa," you know.
Yeah.
So they, you know, "We'll see you in the morning. You won't see us." One of those deals. So yeah, that's how that sort of went. Then I hung around there until paperwork was pushed. Of course, it's sort of hard to say that you're retired when you're 20 years old. So that's sort of the way that went.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I think that the great part, I mean, then you move forward. You know, you came home, and I would say that having known you for the last about 4 or 5 years, that I don't think that ever slowed you down. Maybe for a little bit, but then I think a lot of times, you know, when you get at such a young age, you get wounded, especially you know, especially in war. You don't have a whole lot of choice but to come back and well, I guess you do. You do have a choice whether you're gonna be resilient and make a life, or you're gonna let it shape who you are in a bad way. And um, I think you let it shape your life in a really good way. So let's pick up on coming back and uh, finding a young lady that apparently she didn't see real good either, because she thought you were a handsome man.
Oh man, I was.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and we I came home. My dad, good man. He never served in the military, but he's a hardworking man. He came up out of cotton country down here, black lands down here in Texas.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
hey, around down in there.
Okay.
And he said, "Well, you got a job to go to?" I said, "Well, I can go back to work where I was." He said, "Be a good idea if you started in the morning." So that's sort of the way it went. He didn't have any idea what I'd just walked out of, you know.
Right.
So okay. So I go to work, and I hate to give you my work history, but I'll give you a little bit of an idea. And I know there's some guys out there that same way. Uh, I could quit a job for some reason, no reason, or you'd make the list. I could quit it. Uh, and the worst thing for me was having somebody supervising me that didn't even know what my job was. So, like I told you earlier, there's been some jobs I'd go on break and never go back. So, yeah, it's sort of the way it's been all the way through. And I got to where if I could get a job there wasn't any supervision to, I could dig that. So, uh, 21-hour, 22-hour days, no problem. Just keep on going. That's the way we did over there. That's the way I'd carry it on through. And sometimes at night, 2 hours sleep's all I need, 3 hours maybe. But when I woke up, I had to be doing something.
Right.
So there's guys out there gonna tell you the same thing. So anyway, that's sort of the way I've done it. I've got to where I can sleep, what, 4 or 5 hours now, Rita? So yeah, uh, that's sort of the way it goes.
Yes, sir. And then, so you, at some point in time, you started a hay business.
Oh yeah, well, that's another deal. My dad was in it, and I'd been around it all my life, but helping him and what have you. Uh, but he had a heart attack. They had to do bypass on him and stuff. He asked me to help him, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." I wasn't really doing much except chasing bluegrass festivals around. I was playing a little bit. So I got on the tractor, and he's just helped me this year, and I said, "Okay." So went on, and he started getting over that, and then they diagnosed him with stage 4 lung cancer. So I just kept on going, you know, got down to it. I said, "Well, what?" You know, so we were in there talking one day, and he said, "Take care of your mother." I said, "Okay." And, so after he had passed, I said, "Well, mother, what are you going to do with all this hay equipment, these cows?" So I said, "Ah, she's about 4'11", maybe." And I said, "Well, we'll just keep on doing what we've been doing." I said, "Okay." So I climbed in them tractors, started baling hay, chucked it in her bank account, let her do her deal, cows, all that stuff, feed them. At that time, we had probably 85 head of mama cows, and on 3 different places before, and I was feeding them, baling hay in the summer. Well, she says, me and the ladies are going up to Cape Cod to a quilt show. Okay. I'm still down here
Still on that
baling hay.
tractor.
That's sort of the way that went. And after she passed, I just kept on going. People sort of depended on me to do their hay. And after a while, Rowdy got involved.
Yes, sir.
So the rest is whatever it is. And I got old enough. I'm still wearing knee pants, but I got old enough to retire a little bit, so I still run a few old cows. I've had some around me all my life. So anyway, that's about it.
So, just listening to this, I think that a lot of times people don't, like I said, you were like, well, my story's not real interesting. And we think that because we live our lives that it's just our lives and it's not interesting. But it is. And I think you just showed what a lot of, there's some resilience there, but a lot of people just, like I said, life can either shape you in a good way or a bad way. Your experiences, and you just, well, this is what I got to do to get to tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow you'll get up and do it again. And so working for, people that probably hadn't seen what you'd seen or experienced what you experienced, that's hard. That we talk about, one of my big things that I believe is there's a difference between a leader and a manager or a supervisor.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people get tied up in that, title of I'm in charge, but they don't have any skills. And I think guys like you, a lot of our veterans, especially, whether they were in, I'm sure, when you were in Vietnam, whether you were in a leadership position or not, there was times that you had to lead just because you had to, whatever was going on around you, you had to get you and your buddies on the left and right through it. And, so you just had to do those kind of things. And so when you work for somebody that couldn't lead their way out of a paper bag, but they're trying to tell you what to do, that's hard.
Yeah.
And I think you see that in a lot of veterans, whether it, Vietnam veterans or guys coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, when they came back, they have a hard time, and it's not assimilating back into society. It's just, they have a hard time not, having somebody that thinks they know how to lead, but hasn't had their experience. And they have that struggle. But at the end of the day, you just gotta, like I said, if you put, I've got to do what I got to get through today. And, it sounds like when your dad had his heart attack and he said, well, can you bale some hay for me? You got in that tractor, and then you stayed in that tractor until Rowdy said, well, Granddaddy, I'll take over.
Yeah.
And you thought you probably thought when you got in that tractor that it was going to be 6 months, maybe a year. And then, the year turned into 2, and then that turned into 30 or 40, probably.
It's sort of stitched out there. I did that thing for about 11 years, it seemed like. And a couple of years after that, maybe. But anyway, showed up dressed like I am today, shorts and a shirt, and pulled up in the skies still. There one day says, what are you here to do? I got out of my tractor and said, what are you here to do? I said, I'm here to bale you hay. Best go up there and tell your wife you want a glass of tea and just sit up on your back porch and watch me. He looked at me like, what? But that's the way it went. And I baled a lot of hay for him, after that.
Well,
what are you here to do?
That also proves that, people have a preconceived notion of what a farmer's supposed to look like or a cowboy's supposed to look like. And they sometimes they put more stock in what you're wearing than what you can do. And, so you should be, those tractors get hot. That was probably back in the day that there wasn't real good air conditioning in them either. So shorts and a t-shirt were going to keep you from overheating.
I tried to keep good air conditioner working. Rowdy don't do too good at that job, but he got him one tractor that's got good air conditioner, but I drove him older tractors, and they'd have cab air, but you had to maintain those things some, you know. But anyway, yeah, but it's just more comfortable for me. If I knew I was going to have to get out and do some serious work, I still had some clothes around I could put on, you know, long pants and stuff. I don't say it's just like somebody walking into their office. They want to be comfortable in their office, right?
Right.
Same deal.
Tractor was your office.
Yeah, same deal. But yeah, I don't know, Dan. It's been a long time now since I did all that stuff I've been talking about.
Yeah.
I've got a friend. I want to say something real important for veterans. If your unit or people you serve with has a reunion of any kind, it will do you more good than you can even imagine. Just see your old friends, like old buddies you served with, like somebody from Niagara Falls, or somebody from Indiana, Michigan, or wherever. You know, they name the place. Everybody knows. You know, I
Right.
got buddies from places. It'll do you more good than you realize. I mean, if you're missing something out on your deal, get in touch with some of your buddies. Y'all get together. Hey, drink a beer, you know,
Yes, sir.
or 5. So, yeah.
I think that's an important thing that, especially as guys, as men, we don't oftentimes have that community around us. And so having those people that have seen the same ground, has walked on that same ground,
Yeah.
maybe bled on that same ground as we have, that's important. And I know I got buddies that, I was telling you, I had a buddy that was special forces team chief, and man, I haven't seen him in person since probably about 2004 or 5. Um, but man, we call each other on the phone, and
It's pretty important.
it's like we just had a beer yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's a great, that's very important because, that community is, when we look at, this month as we're talking is, Veteran Suicide Prevention Month.
Yeah.
And as we talk about things like that, that sense of community and being able to talk to people, that had those same experiences is so important. And it's not that you can't share with your family or other people that really care about you, but it's also important that you talk with the folks that they've seen the same fire.
Yeah.
And so that's really important. And if there's anything, that anybody takes away from this conversation is make sure um, if you're a veteran, if you can't reach out to the buddies you served with, find a community of veterans to be involved with. Cause,
Yeah. I
um,
told boy up in Indiana, I'll interrupt you there,
no,
man. We were at a reunion and l- they we had several different companies come through there, you know, and we were like, D, we're dogs. Anyway, we were sitting there, just he and I, sitting chairs side by side. People just kept on coming over and taking pictures of us. I said, hey, Dan, what's with, and we were a little shot back. Uh, I said, what's all this picture taking doing here? I mean, everybody's taking pictures of us. Well, they ain't taking pictures of us. So they're taking pictures of you. I said, no. And he said, yeah. He said, you're the only guy I know of that's been blown up 2 times in one night and still living. And I said, no, you were there. He said, yeah, I watched you do it. So he was about 2 bunkers down. Anyway, he, he's a funny guy. I enjoy being around him. He's funny. Uh, never miss a chance to have fun. So,
that's important.
yeah.
That's another thing that, I think you see other places you go to, whether it was Vietnam or Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever folks have been, you see the difference. And then you get in those situations where you were, you know, blown up twice. Luckily wasn't, but you can think back on those situations where, if God didn't have a plan for us someplace down the road in that moment, he could have snuffed us out. And I think back on those things, and it makes you enjoy life a little bit more when you come back, because you know that, man, you got a second chance. Maybe for you, it might have been about a third chance, but, um, you have that ability to really enjoy life. And
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just, if there's any, I'll speak to some of the veterans if you don't mind.
no,
If
please.
any veterans out there, got that pressure thing going, I mean, that's really pressuring you. Best thing to do is walk away. There's people out there that can help you. You know, go see, go see somebody. It it's probably 30 years or more before I ever went to see anybody. I'd always just might do. Finally, VA Dallas sort of grabbed a hold and helped me some. I had to do a little arm twisting, but they sent me to some people that kind of helped me see what was put the pressure on me so much, and it's it helped me. So, any veterans that might be listening to this thing, if you got that pressure and you know what the pressure is, go get some help.
Yeah, there's a ton of resources, guys, and at this point, guys and gals that are listening to this, and you don't have to do it on your own. And I think that's a problem that
Yeah.
again, we think our problems are, uh, just like we might not think our experiences are that interesting. We might not think our problems are that big. And there's, I mean, I know guys that, I've got a friend, Brothers Keepers, Jack Fanning, he paralyzed from the neck down, compared to when I get up in the morning, what hurts in on me, there's nowhere near the
Oh
difference.
yeah.
And so, you think when you're going through things, well, you think, man, there's guys that are a whole lot worse off than me.
Well,
And so you don't read, because you don't reach out, and then you realize, well, their problems are just different than ours. We all got something and finding somebody you can talk to, whether it's uh, going to the VA or going to, uh, one of the veteran service organizations. They all got folks that can help. Or like I said, just finding your buddies and sharing with them.
yeah, yeah. That's it's good to do that. I've still got several of us still alive. Hey, you got to start thinking if you're a Vietnam veteran, World War II guys are just about gone.
Well,
Korean guys is next up, and guess who's next? So
oh yeah,
I say that with a chuckle, but guess who's next? So yeah, you kind of start taking care of yourself. You know,
yes, sir. And I think another thing, and that's one of the reasons I asked you to come on today, is tell your stories. Tell your stories. Tell what you can tell, because you got great grandkids. I've noticed, and I was thinking about this yesterday, like I said, with yesterday being 9/11, and just you get into that reflective state of these big events in your life. And, you know, I think about it when I was young, and there was a lot of, of course, there was a lot of World War II vets still around when I was a kid. Pearl Harbor Day meant something. It was something that was observed and, um, just was always out there. And now, I mean, everybody knows that it's December 7th, and somebody might make a mention of it on TV news or someplace along the line, but it's not what it was.
right?
And so as, even in the 24 years since 9/11, impact of what that was for a lot of people has gone, in my opinion, has decreased. And so it's really important, because there's going to be a day that you're not around. There's going to be a day I'm not around. And so to share your stories and experiences so that, Walker or your other great grandkids or his kids and grandkids understand what Vietnam was. It's not just something that might get mentioned in their history book or in a class, that they really understand what that is. I think that's important for all of us to, and like I said, we talked, I don't think my story is that important, and I don't share it freely. You think your story wasn't that interesting. We need to share those stories, because there's guys that we served with that aren't here to share their stories. So we need to remember them, and it's kind of to honor them as well.
Yeah.
So I really, Jimmy, I appreciate you. I appreciate your service. I appreciate you coming and sharing with me this morning. Man, I appreciate the example you've been. I will tell you that, as I get to know more of your grandkids, I've known Rowdy for a while, getting to know Rowdy Soundman Kyle. You're a big influence. You've been a great example of how a man's supposed to take care of his family, and I appreciate that. And if nobody's told you, you've done a good job with your kids and your grandkids, and you too, Miss Rita. If nobody's told you all that, I'm telling you, you guys have done an amazing job, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for letting me sort of let a little bit out today.
Anytime you want to talk, if you got more you want to talk about at different times.
I've already said enough. I'm probably done bored everybody to sleep.
No, not at all.
So yeah, I've had a pretty good, after I sort of got lined out, just kept on going. I'm pretty thankful where I am now.
Yes, sir.
Compared to, man, there was a time that a couple of beers wasn't enough. So I'm good.
Yeah. So I do want to talk, just because I remember you saying that you was running up and down the road there a little bit playing bluegrass. So
Yeah.
was that something that you always had a love for, music?
No.
Or
I've always liked music, but I did junior high, maybe a little bit in high school and stuff. But when I came back and everything, I drifted back to trying to play some music, and messing around with guitars and stuff. And had a neighbor uh, back up the road from me there one evening, said, "Yeah, your wife, get your clothes on, and we're going to go listen to Larry Sparks and the Lonesome Ramblers." And I said, "Larry Sparks, don't get so hurt him. Oh, he play that guitar." So anyway, we went and sat there and listened. Man, I'd never heard. Well, I'd heard it on like Beverly Hillbillies or something, but I'd never heard the music. And it hit me really good, solid. Had a stout banjo player in it, and of course Sparks playing his guitar, mandolin, good bass line going. And when we left there, I said, "Man, I've got to learn to play a banjo." and it made me feel good. Music was probably
therapy.
Therapy thing.
That's what I wondered.
And sort of as it went on, and I played. I used to go to festivals, just go out there and jam sessions. And they used to have them. They don't as much now as they used to, but jam session, just I might stay up. Of course, all that staying power. I might crawl back in the camper about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, sir.
And so it just went on like that, and then years went by, and I kind of, when Dad and all that came up, I stopped playing at all. I was probably, what, 50 then? 50 or 51. I, I quit playing, out, and it's been downhill ever since. But, now all my kids that wanted to, I wanted to make sure they had the opportunity to play some. And, so Terry's bunch sort of took up with it.
Right.
They're pretty good players. So anyway, he's pretty important to me.
Yeah, I think that a couple things with music like that. One is it's just great therapy. You can um, sometimes you can play stuff that probably matches your emotional state that you can't maybe even say, or you don't even know how to say it. And then the other thing, thinking about going to those festivals and jam sessions, that's that community. That's that, just being around people of like mind that are playing music um, that's that connection that a lot of military guys, um, once they leave the military, they don't have. And so that's an important thing.
I always hung around older people when I came back. My crowd, they were sort of on a different deal. I
Right.
mean, I had a few young friends around, but the older uh, people, it's who I started blended with best. And when I got into bluegrass music, they were there, and
Yeah.
now they're all gone. I'm the older people, you know. But the anyway, that's sort of pretty interesting. But I'm glad you asked about the music. Yeah, it's something that you can really get into. It's good to get involved with it.
I know there's again the difference of when y'all came back from Vietnam to versus my generation as we came back from Iraq and Afghanistan. Um, a and that's one thing as I thank you for your service. I also thank you for I noticed like when we came home, it was a completely different experience from when y'all came home. And I just felt like I don't think y'all had some secret meeting at the VFW. But I think as a generation of warriors, the guys that came back from Vietnam has said, nobody's ever going to treat these men and women coming back from war the way we were treated. Um, and whether it was like I said, I don't think it was anything, a movement, but I just think, that, that the respect and the things that I got to come back to coming back from Iraq was because I was standing on the shoulders of guys like you who didn't get that. And they said, you guys said, no, we're going to there's things, there's a great, group that does, it's called Guitars for Vets, and they teach veterans how to play guitar so they can have that therapy. There's, a group called Creative Vets that do songwriting clinics and things like that. So that the guys that they can't, some of them are my generation, some of them are yours, and some of those guys that, um, you know, that are in those programs coming back from that were Vietnam veterans. They've been holding on to some things for, like you said, you were in 30 years before you went to talk to somebody. And some of those guys are now coming back at, you know, 50 years and they still haven't
Yeah,
let some of that stuff out, and they can play a song or they can write a song, that's really important. So music, some of the things we're talking about, making sure you have a sense of community, staying hooked into your buddies. And then as time goes on and maybe some of those buddies have passed on, still staying involved in a community of veterans and is important, but then also finding a way to get that pressure out, whether it's talking to somebody. I know a lot of guys they don't want to. So that may be music or poetry or painting or whatever it is, there's always find a healthy outlet for those kind of things. And I think
Right.
that's important.
Yeah, it is. I like I say, I've been pretty fortunate to be around the bluegrass community and music in general. I've enjoyed that part of it. Even though there's been times I couldn't stand up in front of anybody and play, or the crowd was just exactly wrong or something,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta learn to push your way through that. Uh, if, but if you ever come to a movie theater that I'm at, you'll find me on that back row, buddies. I, I ain't sitting up front.
Yeah. And I know it's weird. It's just, I guess, since we're sharing, I'll share too. I think you compensate. Like I didn't think there when I first came back from Iraq, I had some crowds bothered me. And then I got to the point where, I mean, I'd go out and see Rowdy 3-4 times a week, and they're big crowd, small crowd. And it didn't bother me. And then, probably 2 years ago, we went, Stacy and I went to Windstar on a Saturday afternoon, and I had to come apart that I never had before. It was the sounds, it was the lights, it was the people, and I couldn't deal with it,
Yeah.
and we got in the car to come home, and she was driving, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was just sitting over in the passenger seat blubbering, and I was like, "I don't know." Well, I wouldn't take it there if I thought it bothered you. I've been to Vegas. I've been to other places where there's crowds. Whatever triggered there. And then I got to thinking about it. Like some of the things I went to with when I go see Rowdy, well, you're there, and, uh, you know, Sue and Mitch are there, and Nate. And I know I got a core of people I can be around. Terry's there. Connie's there. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
um, there's a core of people that I know I'm safe. I know somebody's got my back.
That's right.
Going into a place where I didn't know anybody, and I didn't, had never been there before, and kind of was off kilter a little bit. It hit me in a way that, shocked the heck out of me.
Yeah. My wife can tell you about that. I said, well, let's go. She knows we're going.
And so,
Def-
and like
yeah.
I said, that was
Yeah.
20 years since I'd been in Iraq when
Yeah.
that happened. It was 20 years. And like I said, I hadn't I never had to come apart like that.
Yeah.
And so so it'll, just cause you think you're fine. Again, it may creep up on you, and there ain't nothing wrong with that happening. And if it does,
That,
being able to talk to people that you love and can share with, is important. And that's,
yeah.
I
It is.
think that's as we kind of are hammering, having a community is
Yeah.
pretty important.
Yeah. It is. Anyway, I don't know. I like to have fun.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty important. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. So, so, uh, and as far as Windstar goes, well, if you're playing machines, and you can back me up on this, winning's a whole lot better than losing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm losing, I'm not staying long. Huh?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
that's about all the brain I've got.
well, I appreciate it. And, man, it's been a great conversation, and I want to, thank you again. Do my little outro here. I want to thank, Kellyanne for providing some technical assistance today. I want to thank Rowdy. He lets us use, parts of Blue Collar for our podcast. And then also on this very special edition, we're going to have a little bit of my granddaddy as part of our, as part of our intro music. So, again, I thank y'all for coming over. I hope this was fun. And like I said, if you come think of something else you want to talk about or share about, you know where to get me, and we'll lay it down as oral history for the grandkids and great grandkids, uh, and just also to share with other veterans. So I
Yeah.
greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you for your service.
Right.
Thank you for your time today, and we'll see you here down the road.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Zip ties, duct tape, and